articles I thought were interesting. I hadn't heard about this. A lot of big companies, I think he even lists some of them later, having you take a personality test to see if you can work. And the personality test consists of seeing these strange aliens and deciding if this is me or not me. This person who fell off a bike, and this alien looking at a perfect world, and always wonder why, whatever that means. And personal best. This, I have no idea what the point of this is. Apparently they take the results of this and decide whether you'd be a valuable employee or not. I was involved in a lawsuit about this stuff about 30 years ago. At that time, they wanted to find out who was drug addicts. And so they gave them a long test with questions like, do you support the legalization of marijuana and stuff? And then they decided to deduce from those answers whether you were a drug addict and not hire you as a result. That turned out to be completely illegal. And about 20 years ago, I read a medical story where they said doctors used to do this. They used to try to give people all these indirect questions to decide if they were a drug addict. And they did research and they found out that if you just ask someone, do you have a problem with your drinking? You get far more information, far more accurate information. So all this dancing around doesn't accomplish anything. Anyway, it's pretty screwy. I don't know what they think they're accomplishing there, but apparently if you apply for a job, you may take a test like that. So NVIDIA has an AI bot. Everybody's competing. They say the NVIDIA one will run locally on your hardware and only look at your data. And like I say, I've always felt like this is the model that makes sense. The public one that has learned on all the data on the internet has learned all kinds of bad habits you don't really want. You probably want, most companies want the one that just learns on your data. And they would like it to accurately tell you what it found in that data. That's what my people I'm consulting with want. And so anyway, we'll see how good this NVIDIA thing is, but it is, I think, moving in the right direction. I know most companies have forbidden people using the big cloud machines like OpenAI, ChatGPT, because your data goes to that server, and there have been cases where that data leaks off to somebody else, and they say, you can't be sending any of our company data up to this cloud server where it's not under our control, and we really don't know that it's safe. So running something local is probably better. So this is a report from America's Cyber Defense Agency, CISA, which is doing a lot of great work. And this is the details of the Chinese hacking of American critical infrastructure, power plants, water plants, and things like that. The group they call Volt Typhoon. It is extremely well written. And the thing that interests me is everything in here is in my instant response class. All the techniques, all the tools, all the software, they're just using the normal stuff like Mimikatz and living off the land binaries and stuff you'll find in our classes here. But it's very interesting in technical details. They tied everything to the MITRE framework, and which is the main way to understand these things. And so they conduct extensive pre-compromise reconnaissance. They gain initial access by exploiting known or zero-day vulnerabilities in appliances like VPNs and firewalls, like Ivanti devices, which all U.S. government agencies were forced to take offline last Saturday, because they're too full of vulnerabilities and they're being exploited. And then they obtained administrative credentials and used valid administrative credentials to move to the domain controller. Then they stole the domain controller's credential file and cracked them and used PowerShell to perform targeted queries and get turn the event logs into DAT files. They extracted, this is it, ntds.dit, the domain controller database. Then they crack that and find real legitimate passwords, use offline techniques. And now they have elevated credentials. So it's quite reasonable and very much the sort of stuff that we cover in our classes. And they have a lot of details here. So I thought this was pretty interesting. Very interesting work from CISA and guiding people. And there are many shorter news stories summarizing this information. But the authentic government document is quite interesting. All right, just checking for comments. All right, so I didn't know this was happening. I saw this in the movies. Apparently people around here climb on top of the BART trains and ride on top and take videos of themselves doing this. It's a hobby, and now 2 of them have died doing it. And I mean, it reminds me of something about 5 years ago. All these people would go stand on the edge of a cliff and take videos, and something like that. Try to climb in a cage with a tiger and take a snapshot. And, you know, of course, this is a damn fool thing to do, and you're going to get killed. and they're talking about maybe reinforcing the gaps between the BART trains. Right now they have a rubber gasket and you can squeeze through. And so if they put in something like metal teeth, then you wouldn't be able to squeeze through and it would be harder to get on top of the trains. So that's one possible answer. That's sort of like, I don't know if they ever did it. For decades they were talking about building an anti-jump barrier on the Golden Gate Bridge. So people jumped off, couldn't jump to their death from there, because a lot of people do. I think they finally did that, the same kind of thing. Anyway, people are nuts. So this one is pretty interesting. There have been several big hacks recently at Microsoft, Cloudflare, and a bank, all through the non-production servers. So you have production servers that are actually servicing your clients. Then you have development servers, which are internal, where your developers set up an environment to test and make sure the software works. And then you have other servers that are connected to your network, but they're not really in current use. And unfortunately, those things tend to be neglected, out of date, not patched, forgotten, and yet they're still on the network. And many companies got hacked this way. So Microsoft had a legacy server that was not using two-factor authentication and had a guessable password, and they just came in with a password spray attack, trying a lot of passwords until they got in.
Did they say what the system was?
What's that?
What was the unpatched system?
Down here, they used the non-production test tenant account, and they were then able to access emails of senior leadership team.
So it was their own internal.
It was their own internal server.
It wasn't like a TeamCity or.
No, it was like a test server that was still running, but it had weak certification and they got in. This tends to happen. It especially happens at colleges. At colleges, there's always somebody that set up a server and nobody really knows who set it up or whether it's okay to turn it off, and it stays there for years.
You mean like in the lab?
Yeah, exactly. People set up some project, they set up something, and then, nobody knows really who's in charge, and that teacher retired, nobody really knows if anybody's still using it, and it stays there. It's easy to do this, but it's poor security. Cloudflare had a threat actor, but they managed to push them out through their defense and death before they got anything. But First American Financial had another one like this. So anyway, this is a thing to be aware of, that your non-production servers are often the weak point. And so here's a couple of these stories about the same thing. So AI is now being used to monitor employee messages. Now, this used to be a job for low-level security professionals, is to read everybody's email. Somebody has to do it. If you let people send email from your company, you have to. If somebody sends illegal email, like racist email or something, your company is liable for not stopping that. So somebody has to be monitoring it. And now they're trying to pass this on to AI. So this makes you worry that it's going to be thought crimes. So there's two ways it's used. One way is anonymized data, so you can see how employees in a certain age group or in a particular geography are responding to a new corporate policy or something. So you can get sort of like popularity measures of things. But there's another one when you want to do an investigation, you think something bad is happening, then it will dig into people and identify them. So insider risk. Now this is, we had this college had a serious insider threat years ago. I've talked about. We had a crooked CISA that performed a fake virus outbreak, so he could has his buddy come in as a consultant and charge a lot of money to supposedly clean it up, and it was all a scam. And the question is, what do you do about insiders? You have your employees, they have credentials, they have permissions, and then they start doing bad things. How do you know when they turn bad? And Snowden is what really made every government agency total freak out about this. How do we know that somebody is not going to take our secrets and dump them on WikiLeaks? How do you know if your people are still loyal? And what I was told is everybody inside the NSA that had access to network was being forced to take a polygraph every 3 months. And this is not good for employee morale. But that is the government standard. A polygraph is what they use to tell if you're loyal. And that's not a very good device. So there's a big market for some kind of black magic, some kind of tool that will tell you if your employees are disloyal. And this is one of them. Aware's revenue is risen. So they make this thing and supposedly tell if people are doing bad things online. And this is just another article about the same thing. And like I say, it may be thought crimes. This has come around over and over and over. H.B. Gary Federal, about 10 years ago, said they could identify online criminals this way by correlating Twitter and and Facebook and the other social networks. They could tell when somebody posted something, and then it appeared quickly on the other accounts. Those are the people connected with this person. And therefore, I can find out who's in the group, and they totally misidentified the anonymous people and went down in flames. But it is the general idea is maybe there's a way to do that. And maybe if you made a really good tool, you could figure out things. But the existing tools aren't doing it that well.
That's to round up all the hackers.
What's that?
That's to round up all the hackers.
Yes, of course. That's why they round up hackers. And there are ways to do it, but not by their social media posts.